What's up, everybody? The V Club here, and Happy New Year 2025. Kicking it off with a new video today. And so, 2025. Hope everybody had a safe one out there. I stayed home. I had to work, but before that, I was able to get home before the ball drops. And I didn't realize the ball dropped because I was busy doing stuff, and then I heard fireworks and it was 12:01. I was, oh shit, and the ball dropped. So, that was my New Year's right there for you. And so, V Club, anything and everything, nothing's off the table is what it's all about. All right, and it's just sharing my opinion on stuff that I'm seeing, and just kind of voicing that opinion. I think I just have a common sense kind of mind, right? And so with that, let's talk about it. And all opinions are welcome. Opinions are welcome. So it doesn't matter which side the fence you're on. It doesn't matter. It's all about just sharing it. All right. So with that, we can't even have a New Year's celebration without having something like this happen, right? They have a New Orleans attack, right? It's like, why? Why do we have to deal with that crap? And it just sucks, that these days you can't even do things anymore like you used to, right? I remember at one of my early jobs, you could go out on your break and just like chill in your car with your windows down and take a nap, right, in the parking lot. But these days, if you do that shit, man, you'll never know who might walk up on you and try to cause something with you, So it just sucks. And let's see what happened here. There's some sort of New Orleans attack on a New Year's celebration.
New Orleans police now say the suspect opened fire at officers just moments after he plowed his truck into a busy crowd on Bourbon Street. The suspect is now dead after that gunfight, but it's still unclear if the individual was killed by police or took their own life. Let's bring in Paul Morrow, Fox News contributor and retired NYPD inspector. Paul, thank you for joining us. I want to get your take on this. It comes as we're just getting small bits by bits. We're hoping to get more from the FBI and, of course, a press conference coming, Paul. But the local New Orleans police media is reporting that the city council president, Helena Moreno, says that this attacker was, quote, not a local and was dressed in full military gear. Wow. What's your reaction?
So as you guys mentioned earlier, this is very reminiscent of the terrorist attack that occurred on the West Side Highway, executed by a guy named Saifullah Saipov. I was actually on scene for that, and it has a lot of that footprint. A vehicle attack on a holiday. In Saipov's case here in New York, it was Halloween. He couldn't gain access to the Halloween parade because of prophylactic measures that the NYPD had taken by parking trucks and other things to secure the event. And so he went along the West Side Highway, called an audible, and did what he did. This is very reminiscent of that, and that is, believe me, the kind of thing that's on the mind of investigators here. The FBI, as we know, has the lead. Yep. What they're going to be looking for this to be a terrorist event, and that's still a little vague, is for a connection to a foreign power.
Paul, let me jump in. Fox News can now identify a high-level source within the New Orleans Police Department says officials have identified the suspect who drove the truck. The suspect identified as Samshud Din Jabbar. Now, Jabbar was carrying a Glock pistol and a .308 rifle that had been reportedly stolen in New Jersey. The .308 rifle was equipped with an optics and/or suppressor. There are at least 4 or 5 other suspects involved. That's a big detail right there, identifying, again, the suspect as a Samshud Din Jabbar, but 4 or more individuals also involved. This is becoming a different story, Paul.
Yeah, and that tracks with the information that I've been receiving as well, including the identity. I would caution relative to the other people involved. Let's see how they've confirmed that and where they're going with that. The indicia there may be a little bit soft. And as we've learned so many times in the past, a lot of the early reporting on an event tends to be undermined as things clarify. But certainly the identity does look to be accurate. Doesn't look like he's from the area. But what they're going to be looking for here, and my suspicion is there's likely a manifesto or something like that in the truck or in his home or online. Somehow or other, he's communicated something like that. Because, again, going back to the event that happened here in New York, there was a manifesto in the truck. This looks so reminiscent of that. I wouldn't be surprised if when they dump his computer and do various other things, they're going to find out that he was looking at that event and maybe decided that he was going to try to copycat it, essentially, because it really, really does track to that.
And Paul, now learning that this individual did not act alone, and the earliest press conference we got with the FBI special agent telling us that improvised explosive devices may have been involved,
IEDs?
this coordination would suggest perhaps that there could be an existing threat to the public, and that the clock is really ticking right now for them to find out everything they can about this to keep the public safe.
Yeah, my understanding is that there were 2 IEDs recovered at 2 different locations. They were pipe bombs with nails, and they were placed in disparate locations, not at the location that the suspect did the event. And so that does argue that maybe there are other people involved, because that is a lot of planning and coordination for him to go plant those and then come to the location that, that he actually did the attack. But we'll have to see. Look, they are, I am sure, going at all of this very, very hard. You're going to have a lot of resources poured into this. A lot of people got woken up early after, New Year's Eve, and they're out there working right now. Not just New Orleans PD. You'll have Louisiana State Police.
Dead.
But in terms of the terrorism connection, for the FBI, I don't understand that statement that the FBI agent made early on, where she said unequivocally this is not a terrorism attack. You have to admit to the possibility here that it's a possibility.
No,
and I think that it's started to clarify in that direction.
This is
FBI, though,
attack.
again, for them to bring federal terrorism charges, they're going to need some sort of a connect to a foreign terrorist organization, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, or a foreign government. And that's what they're going to be looking for. Otherwise, just to posit this, Louisiana has a terrorism statute. And sometimes the state statutes are better. We use them here in New York. We see recently Alvin Bragg charge it in the case of the CEO murder of United Healthcare CEO Thompson. So
only because there was so much evidence for Alvin Bragg to really charge that if he was to turn the other way and come up with some lame excuse, as Alvin Bragg has always done in New York, to let people go, there was no way he would have let this that Luigi guy go, that killed the CEO. Here, I mean, that would have been just straight up for Alvin Bragg. That would have been career suicide, even though he's already on a career suicide as we speak. There's no way he could be reelected again because he's trash. Here, this is straight up a terrorist attack. I mean, there's no question to it. No question.
These things are fluid right now, but it looks like the FBI has the ticket, and I would guess that they have some indicia here from inside the truck or this guy's background that he had a terrorist intent, and it looks like that's the way this is going.
And as we learn more about the motive, hopefully the officials will be able to tell us. But I think if you put into full context, Paul, it has been a number of years since we had a high-level coordinated terror attack in the U.S. And so we're waking up not only to a tragedy in New Orleans, but what may be a concern of a style of attack that we haven't seen in some time. Now learning that this individual, identified as Shamsud-Din Jabbar, that was, according to the city council president, dressed in full military garb.
Full military. I mean, come on. I mean, what more can you ask for? I mean, like, really. Like, there's no question. All right, now, with all that, all right, where can this boil down to? All right, we got to look at where all this boiled down to. All right, let me give you a hint here. All right, let me look for him right here. Right here. This right here. This guy right here. Between him and let me go see where the so-called borders are. Oh, there's the so-called borders are right there. And so those are two big reasons why this terrorism attack took place in the U.S. All right, is because of open borders and the border is secure, and how many unchecked illegals have come in through the border. I mean, it just goes on and on and on, like how bad things have been these last 4 years of just open border, allowing the world to come in, because it's not just people seeking asylum from these poor places like Venezuela and all that, even though they let all their prisoners out. People are coming from China, people are coming from Africa, people are coming from the Middle East. They're coming from everywhere through that border. And for them to say, oh, it's safe, and then to come at everybody like a slap in the face, all right, to say, we came with the bipartisan plan, and the bipartisan plan would have been a solution to the open border. We would have had more border agents. It would slow the flow of migrants who are coming in 5,000 a day, which still allows people to come in. The border needs to be closed, and this terrorist attack is the reason why this border needs to be closed, all right? Good thing that this guy is dead, all right? We don't have to worry about trying to prosecute, all that other stuff. All we got to do is look for more evidence of what they were talking about, the what do you call it, the manifesto, or computer connections, technological connections, with communication across, amongst people with cell phones, whatever. But we know there's probably going to be terrorist ties. This is a coordinated, planned situation, and straight up, we got to close the border. Simply put, this is the reason why we got to close the border. And if we can't do it on the call of safety and security, then what's the point of just having a government at all then? All right, these dumb progressive liberals need to wake up and realize that this happens because of an open border. We need security, and we got to close the border. These guys came in on a false pretense, and then at the same time we have all these people that are unvetted in the country at the same time. Who's to know that, besides like the gangs and all that stuff that have infiltrated through the borders and now spread out across the U.S., like in Colorado apartment complex and all that stuff, who's to know that what else can go wrong, right? So much can go wrong with this open border. And California is really not helping the cause either when they have their open border and really feeding into it, giving all the illegals everything that they need and want. So Gavin Newsom needs to go too. Hopefully he tries to resist, all right, when Trump and Tom Homan comes in and says, hey, if you want to keep doing what you're doing, okay, that's fine. We'll cut off federal funding. And if you want to keep doing what you're doing, you need to get arrested. And I hope he does get arrested. Because this sort of thing shouldn't be happening. It sucks. You can't even have a happy New Year celebration.
Hey guys,
with this
my name is
happening.
Harris Heller, and I've been a full-time YouTuber for over 10 years now. And if you are a YouTuber...
Joining us now, former
Sucks.
FBI Special Agent and Attorney Stuart Kaplan. Stuart, thank you so much for being here
10
this
dead,
morning.
35 hurt.
This information continues to flood into the newsroom. We now know authorities are looking into the identity of this suspect, the driver, who is now deceased. How are they digging? Where are they digging specifically, Stuart, to reveal a potential motive in this case?
Good morning, Kelly. Thank you for having me. And just so your viewers know, I'm very familiar with New Orleans. I spent the best part of my life, 4 years there.
You're starting to see more and more unravel as we speak. Look at this.
I'm joined now by CNN senior justice correspondent Evan Perez, who is here with me. Evan, there's some significant new details you've been reporting out about the suspect. What do we know?
Well, we know now that, perhaps some of the explanation of why the FBI very quickly started treating this as a terrorism investigation. One of the things they found at the scene was an ISIS flag that is believed to have been with the suspect. And so, again, that's one of the key factors here in treating this as a federal terrorism investigation. The other thing that went to this determination by the FBI was finding IEDs inside an ice chest inside the truck. Again, that's one of the reasons why we heard a couple of booms
inside
where
the ice chest,
the bomb squad
was
essentially detonating to make sure that the devices were rendered safe, to make the scene safe for investigators to be able to do their work. Now, again, one of the things that they're still working on is to figure out whether anyone else might have been associated with this person. They know a lot about this person. They know he's a U.S. citizen. They know that there are some links in Texas. We don't know exactly at this point whether he was still living in Texas or just perhaps moved from there. Again, all of that is still under this investigation. We also know that the vehicle, Phil, was owned by someone else. It was rented through an app where people put their private vehicles up for rental. It's very common nowadays for people to do that.
U-Haul
and so one of the things we did was we went to the person who owned the vehicle. That person is still alive, clearly. So it's not the person who was behind the wheel at the time of this incident.
Let me go over here.
The FBI has just released the name of the alleged attacker in the awful New Orleans tragedy that happened just around 3 a.m. on New Year's Day. 10 people killed, around 3 dozen injured. That attacker, who drove into the crowd in a white pickup truck and then engaged in a gun battle with police before the attacker, was shot dead, has been named as 42-year-old Shamsud Din Jabbar. We are told he is a U.S. citizen and he is from Texas. Justice correspondent Dave.
Okay, interesting. So, from Texas. Still, we got to close the border anyway. It doesn't matter. All right, because this kind of terrorism wouldn't be happening if we had a closed border anyways.
David Spunt is live at the White House with the latest. David, how did the FBI make this determination?
But it all still goes back to Kamala and Biden, because they're soft. They're just soft when it comes to defunding police and all this other stuff, right? DEI. When it comes to law enforcement, I mean, that's the problem we have with them. So yeah, maybe it wasn't an illegal that did it, but at the same time, since we're so soft when it comes to crime, law enforcement and all that, DEI, we do have a problem with that when it comes to security in this country. Because, I mean, look at it. Trump got nearly assassinated twice because of soft on law enforcement, right? And defunding, the law enforcement. Well, let's say law enforcement, not police, but, law enforcement, right? That there's a major need for them. And there's not a lot of people that are willing to now because of just a lot of drawback from that, which is not drawback, a lot of pushback, because they're kind of looked at as a sore spot, in just the everyday life, even though they're there for us. So that's the only sad thing about it. But yeah, so suspect's been identified. Again, we can't even have a New Year's Day without this sort of bullshit to happen.
Well, the FBI either is going to classify this as domestic terrorism or international terrorism. We know that Shamsud Din Jabbar, who's the suspect, the 42-year-old, was born in the United States. He is a U.S. citizen born here. So perhaps this will be domestic terrorism, but we don't want to get ahead of that.
No,
we're going to get some update from authorities within the next 45 minutes or so. We know that there was an ISIS flag that was found in the vehicle.
Exactly.
Perhaps there may be more that gave authorities some sort of inkling as to why this is terrorism, although an ISIS flag, I think, is a pretty clear indication for why the FBI, Jonathan, just hours after this attack happened, the FBI came back and said, listen, this is being investigated as an act of terrorism. As for the White House, President Biden is not here. He's at Camp David with the First Lady. We heard brief remarks from him on the tarmac today. He spent the night in Wilmington New Year's Eve and made this statement, though he didn't say much, but I do want to play it.
You've all got my statement. I'll have more to say in the next hour or so following what's going on in New Orleans. I'll be happy to do that.
Do you understand if the person crossed the border?
I'm not going to comment on any specific at all. I've contacted every agency in the federal government as well as the state, They're all coordinating to get to the bare facts. We know what the facts are.
Can you say if you're a foreigner or if you was domestic?
I'm not going to say anything until I get all the facts in front of me.
Has the suspect been identified?
Again, I'm not going to comment until I speak to the group later. I've spoken to every member of the agency, from the CIA to our national security team, to our FBI, NSC, and we're gathering all the. And I spent a lot of time with the government, with the mayor.
What was your reaction when you heard what happened?
Well, the reaction was one of anger and frustration. Thank you.
One of anger and frustration. That's before we heard the name Shamsud.
Anger and frustration. You woke him up from his nap. That's why you woke him up. Anyhow, that's enough of this stuff. All right, so good thing dude's dead. All right. We all know this will be international terrorism because of the ISIS flag and all that. And we're going to see more as the days go by. Unfortunately, 10 dead and 35 injured. Yeah, so, we'll see as more becomes unraveled. So that's your latest here. Other than that, comment down below. Let me know what you think. Subscribe, hit the bell icon. That way we could, stay in tune with daily content. And I just want to say thank you, and I'll see you next one.